An animal with some instincts of a god. His life a story too common to be told. His deeds a number summing up to naught. His consciousness a torch lit to be quenched. His hope a star above her cradle and grave. An animal with some instincts of a god. His life a story too common to be told. His deeds a number summing up to naught. His consciousness a torch lit to be quenched. His hope a star above her cradle and grave.
Welcome. Good morning. We're starting with Book 2. We've read through the first canto the first time, so now we'll go passage by passage. I'll review a little bit from the last canto. Just to give a sense of where Aswapati is in his spiritual journey. So a passage from the last canto at the end of page 80, at the start of the new section there. I'll just read a little bit of this profound experience that he had. In a divine retreat from mortal thought, in a prodigious gesture of soul sight, his being towered into pathless heights, naked of its vesture of humanity. As thus it rose, to meet him bare and pure, a strong descent leaped down, a might, a flame, a beauty half visible with deathless eyes, a violent ecstasy, a sweetness dire, enveloped him with its stupendous limbs, and penetrated nerve and heart and brain that thrilled and fainted with the epiphany. His nature shuddered in the unknown's grasp. So he has this kind of transforming experience. And then we get a kind of a preview of this hierarchy of worlds that we're going to read about in the next canto. And I'll just give again that brief synopsis of these worlds. This is towards the bottom of page 88. Sri Aurobindo says, so this is a vision that Aswapati has, ascending and descending twixt life's poles, the serried kingdoms of the graded law, plunged from the everlasting into time. Then glad of a glory of multitudinous mind, and rich with life's adventure and delight, and packed with the beauty of matter's shapes and hues, climbed back from time into undying self, up a golden ladder carrying the soul, tying with diamond threads the spirit's extremes. In this drop from consciousness to consciousness, each leaned on the occult inconscience power, the fountain of its needed ignorance, arch mason of the limits by which it lives. In this soar from consciousness to consciousness, each lifted tops to that from which it came, origin of all that it had ever been, and home of all that it could still become. And then just one additional thing I'll give as a kind of a prelude to this hierarchy of worlds, which Aswapati is going to journey through in Book 2, in 15 cantos. In Shraddhavan's book, Volume 5, which covers the beginning of Book 2. As an introduction to this, she quotes Sri Aurobindo from the Doctrine of the Mystics, in which he describes these worlds. And Shraddhavan starts with the heading, Where and What Are These Worlds? And then she quotes Sri Aurobindo. They are here. Man draws from the life world his vital being, and from the mind world his mentality. He is ever in secret communication with them. He can consciously enter into them, be born into them, if he will. Even into the solar worlds of the truth he can rise, enter the portals of the superconscient, cross the threshold of the supreme. The divine doors shall swing open to his increasing soul. And he continues, the human ascension is possible because every being really holds in himself all that his outward vision perceives as external to him. We have subjective faculties hidden within us, which correspond to all the tiers and strata of the objective cosmic system. And these form for us so many planes of our possible existence. This material life and our narrowly limited consciousness of the physical world are far from being the sole experience permitted to man. If maternal earth bore him and retains him in her arms, yet is heaven also one of his parents. As he mounts thus to higher and ever higher planes of himself, new worlds open to his life and his vision and become the field of his experience and the home of his spirit. He lives in contact and union with their powers and Godheads, and remolds himself in their image. Each ascent is thus a new birth of the soul. And then Shraddhavan explains, this is the journey which Sri Aurobindo shows Aswapati pursuing, moving from the mortal to the immortal planes and conquering them on behalf of mankind. As a typical representative of the race, to win the possibility of discovery and possession of all the planes of consciousness. So that's our introduction to Book 2. So we can begin reading with Canto 1. Turiya, would you like to begin? Begin reading on Canto 1, The World-Stair, on page 95. We start from the beginning. So we see the position of Aswapati at this stage, moving, conscious of the infinity around him, of the unknowable above, and all could be seen that shuns the mortal eye. All could be known, the mind has never grasped. He has this kind of omniscience, able to see everything in a glance, to know everything. And all could be done. No mortal will can dare. Along with the omniscience, there's and omnipotence, all power at his disposal. So that infinity is also conscious. It's the divine presence around him. Yeah, he's living in a, it seems to be like a kind of a conscious unity with that divine around him and above. Because also he's able to see these worlds, as we'll see, this hierarchy of worlds. He can see all of this in a glance, know all of it, do whatever needs to be done. That infinite force is also flowing through him, picking him up. Yeah, that's similar. I mean, that's an experience, that's, I think, common, that one has a sense of the divine watching over things or over oneself. But it's just interesting to kind of stress this, you know, Aswapati's great kind of consciousness and poise at this point in his sadhana and in his journey. And yet he has far to go. So yeah, there's a kind of a union maybe of this transcendental universal state and still his individual being is operating within that. Aurobindo talks about the divine having these three aspects: transcendent, universal, and individual. So he's kind of participating in all three of those things. Yeah, he's referring to kind of subtle matter. So it's a kind of a substance that has, one can see it, and perhaps even interact with it and touch it, but it's not the physical hard matter. It's like the stuff of our dreams. I mean, there we interact with other people or, with objects and things. It seems everything has a form, but it's not the physical form. Hmm? It's all within, yeah. He's seeing this within. But what he sees, these worlds that he is going to enter, and the beings and the worlds that he sees, it's linked with our physical world. That's what he's saying. It's not unrelated. It could say in the physical philosophical terms that I was kind of using, that's kind of the universal existence, space. I mean, it's everything around. And there, all of these, and that includes, like you say, all these worlds as well as the physical universe in which we live. But all these different worlds, this multi-dimensional existence, we move through that, and it becomes like an adventure for the soul to experience. Yeah. Mm. Yeah, it's a very, very deep kind of conception, this idea of the individual being moving about in this vast universal existence, watched by this transcendent being above, of which this universe and the individual are kind of projections from that. And all of that is united in it. I don't think that there is like a specific, significance, for a capitalized thing. I mean, generally, when he capitalizes something, it means typically either as an aspect of the divine or as a fundamental principle. What does, okay, the heading is for space? Yeah. Okay, you can read. Hmm. Yeah, this space-time, they're fundamental principles through which that I think the universal existence manifests. It manifests as an extension and as a kind of a subjective movement in that extension. Yeah. Yeah, we could have a book about these 6 lines. Okay, let's continue reading. Anandi? A self-creation. I don't have the line numbers. A self-creation. What number? 13. 1-3. Oh, we went beyond, I guess. Okay, so it's 19. He's giving a sense of the vast variety of existence that lives in this universe. Those lines just before Anandi read too. It flung into the hazards of its play a million moods, a myriad energies, the world shapes that are fancies of its truth, and the formulas of the freedom of its force. It poured into the ever-stable's flux of Bacchic rapture and revel of ideas, passion and motion of everlastingness. Everything is poured out into this universal existence from the infinite. Yeah, it's all movement, changing. That also is there. So that's the paradox. There are these thoughts that abide forever, and yet there's these fleeting thoughts that last a second. Gone. Yeah, he has this interesting line here. The eternal stillness saw in unmoved joy his universal power at work, display in plots of pain and dramas of delight, the wonder and beauty of her will to be. So behind there is this eternal being watching this vast drama of existence, of the universal existence. And taking joy in it. So all, even pain, was the soul's pleasure. Yeah. Yeah, it's, I don't know, it's relating to this kind of paradoxical nature of this, I think. This flux, this universal existence which contains everything in all these movements that are constantly going on, taking all different forms. Also, that is emerging out of the stable, of the one existence, of the eternal, unchanging being. I'm not clear of the question, but it seems to me that all of these things are emerging out of the being, out of the unchanging being. All of these things emerge from that and then perhaps fall back into silence again. So that's like the line that I read, the eternal stillness saw in unmoved joy. So it's that stability is behind everything, observing it, and all of this movement is arising from that. Yeah, and these particular thoughts and words that are immortal, perhaps those are expressive of that eternal being from which they arise. Maybe that's what he's getting at here. Those thoughts and words carry something of the eternal within them. And then those last final two lines here, all experience was a single plan, the thousand-fold expression of the one. So that seems to emphasize that although there is this, great variety and change and almost kind of this chaos seeming of expression of the universe, yet it's all tied together somehow. It's all unified and it's all different aspects of the expression of the one being. So we'll continue, Nick. Third line from the top. Okay, thank you. Then the first lines suggest that he's seeing all of these things in a single view. and also feeling one with all of that. He was one spirit with that immensity. And then he mentions the cosmic self, and that as if all that he is seeing are images, structured visions of the cosmic self. One would suppose he's unified with that cosmic self, observing, seeing all these different aspects, visions of the cosmic self. And also those visions are expressions of that self. Like form-bound spiritual thoughts figuring the movements of the ineffable. Aspects of being, dawned world outline, forms that open moving doors on things divine, became familiar to his hourly sight. The symbols of the Spirit's reality, the living bodies of the bodiless, drew near to him, his daily associates. So he's seeing these shapes and forms, these beings, these worlds, and they're all expressions of this self. Cosmic self. And then perhaps a little further down, he seems to be seeing like symbolic kind of images, lettering, or the exhaustless seeings of the unsleeping mind, lettering of its contact with the invisible, surrounded him with countless pointing signs. And the voices of 1,000 realms of life, mission to him her mighty messages. So we see here mind and life, and above it seemed as if he was more seeing, in the worlds of the gods or something, beings that were bodies of the bodiless. Thank you. So he's experiencing this whole hierarchy of worlds here. In the kind of higher realms of those worlds, the worlds of the gods, I think. And then of mind, its different expressions, ideas, thoughts, expressing the self, and then the voices of life, and now the dire imaginations dreamed by hell. And there, in those worlds, in that subtle world, these experiences, these imaginations dreamed by hell have a great intensity. They resume their topless pitch and native power, their fortifying stress upon the soul, bit deep into the ground of consciousness. The passion and purity of their extremes, the absoluteness of their single cry, the sovereign sweetness or violent poetry of their beautiful or terrible delight. But that's life, even here, no? We have this such beauty, refinement in life here, and we have this horrible brutality all mixed together. But then, as we'll see as we go on, here these are these typal worlds. So they express that particular rung of the ladder of consciousness. They express it in, kind of a purity and power of that particular level. So these dire imaginations dreamed by hell have this great intensity there. Because in our world, it's all kind of mixed together. But in that world, it's not mixed. In that world of hell, It's in its own purity. It follows its particular law and expresses it in a kind of an absolute way. That's what he's kind of getting at. It's, huh? Terrible. You go into those hells of consciousness, unrelieved by light or sweetness, or you don't find it. Yeah, these are lower vital. Yeah, it's also all here. Here they're kind of mixed with everything. They're all combined here in the world. And actually, I was reading in Shradovan's book, I think, that it's necessary to work out that harmony. That's the kind of mission of this world, and that's also the difficulty of working out that harmony between those hellish forces and those divine forces and everything in between. All of that has to somehow be worked out here. Right? So difficult. No. Has to be integrated somehow. It's so terrible, I think, that we would become numb. We wouldn't be able to really take it in. Thank you. So in this first sentence, he's describing that all of these different worlds with their different types of experience, their different beings and scenes, they're all coming to him, seeking entry into his awareness and consciousness, offering their marvel and their multitude. And he feels them. It's not just a disinterested vision of them, but also he's feeling their contact. Well, I don't know if that's what it's saying there. I think these these worlds, these beings and all of that, they're the witnesses. They are the witnesses of his self-discovery. I think that's what it would be saying. His self-discoveries, flaming witnesses. It's referring to them. But in his self-discovery, also they're kind of offering themselves as part of that discovery, I think. But there is also that line, we're near to heart's contact, felt by spirit sense. So that also suggests he's really feeling something of that intensity which they have in their own realms. So, and then in the next sentence, he's describing that all of this is becoming part of himself. This is his being now. It's not just this kind of isolated individual being, but his being is spreading out into these worlds. These now became new portions of himself, the figures of his spirit's greater life, the moving scenery of his large time walk, or the embroidered tissue of his sense. These took the place of intimate human things. Vast experience of all these beings and worlds that kind of take the place of our normal human interactions for him. And then this next sentence, it talks about them. Again, it's referring to this vast variation in all of these experiences. The endless kingdoms of the Spirit's bliss, unnumbered tones, struck from one harmony's strings. Again, there's a great variety in their experience, but somehow they're all tied together. Each to its wide-winged, universal poise, its fathomless feeling of the all-in-one, brought notes of some perfection yet unseen. So each of these worlds, these levels, brings one note of a greater, wider perfection that is yet unseen. Each has a place in the whole. Notes of some perfection yet unseen, its single retreat into truth's secrecies, its happy sidelight on the infinite. Each expresses some aspect of the one. Klaus, you want to read? So we see that all these worlds, experiences, are as if dreamed and made by the one, the unique. They're all tinging with ceaseless rapture and surprise and opulent beauty, passionate difference. Each level is different, expressing that level powerfully, passionately. And their recurring beat at moments, God and time. Their expressions of God, of the one being, expressions in time, beats, recurring beats of the one in time. And he says one thing is missing. Of that one unifying experience somehow is still missing from his grasp. Perhaps it's kind of an overmental kind of experience that he's able to, has the cosmic consciousness of being all the worlds, but somehow that unifying consciousness that ties it all together with the one, with the transcendent, is missing. The sole, timeless word carries eternity in its lonely sound. The idea, self-luminous key to all ideas, the integer of the Spirit's perfect sum that equates the unequal all to the equal one. Single sign interpreting every sign, the absolute index to the absolute. Excuse me? The integer of the Spirit's perfect sum. What an integer is a number, huh? A whole number, yeah. So it's kind of, I think, like a unity. It's a whole number. It's kind of a unity. I think he's more talking about a supramental knowledge that's absolutely unifying. Well, that's because this is missing. mathematical images. Yeah. I think that's what he's getting at, if you want to put it in those terms. Something is missing from his experience. He has a vision, he has an experience of the cosmic consciousness, of the universe, of all the universes, but somehow the absolute unity underlying that and simultaneous with it but so I don't know. At times he talks about, he recognizes that it's all a harmony, that it's all interrelated, that, we read that several times, but the absolute completeness of that vision somehow still eludes him. Images of a supernal, huh? Which page? Images in a supernal consciousness embodying the unborn who never dies. So a supernal consciousness is just a very high spiritual consciousness. It's not supramental, or, it's not that. Yeah, no, I don't think you wouldn't identify it with supramental. It's just a very high spiritual consciousness. Uh, you could say not the divine, but perhaps divine with a small d. Okay, I think we can stop there today.
An animal with some instincts of a god. His life a story too common to be told. His deeds a number summing up to naught. His consciousness a torch lit to be quenched. His hope a star above her cradle and grace.
Thanks to Sri Aurobindo.